So the Senate Democratic Caucus is taking up the critical question of whether the filibuster stands as a legitimate obstacle to voting rights legislation that sits before it. I think the answer is very clearly no, and I want to explain a perspective that shows why it's so clearly no. This becomes a battle between a procedural rule, the filibuster, and something as solemn as the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. So when every senator begins their term, they take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I would argue there is nothing more solemn in American governance than taking that oath. And in taking that oath, they are committing to many things, but one of them is to uphold Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. And that's the clause where the Constitution says that the United States shall guarantee to all states in the Union a Republican form of government. And what the Constitution means there, what the founders meant, was that by Republican form of government, was that these states had to reflect the will of the people, that the people were sovereign. And they wrote that because they were worried about the great danger that would come to this country if states, with all the powers they had, were ever taken over by, at that time, they were worried about monarchy, or as they put it, rich elite interests. They thought that'd be a great danger to the country, and today's events are showing us how right they are. So this is why the guarantee clause is in the Constitution. And when senators take that oath, they're taking an oath to fulfill that guarantee. When put up against, when in battle with the filibuster, this clause, this oath, overwhelms the filibuster. It's simply not good enough to say, well, I support the legislation, but because 50 members of the Senate don't agree with me, I'm not going to actually make it happen. There's simply no excuse, none whatsoever, for violating an oath you've taken to support and defend the guarantee clause of this country. And that's why, as we move forward, if you support the legislation and you see the attacks on democracy for what they are, the filibuster cannot and should not stand in the way of fulfilling this solemn duty. Please call the senators here and make sure they understand that their oath trumps the filibuster.